Well, I had said that I was going to go back into December and start posting those videos again so that I could see the healing progress. But then I had somebody comment on my video yesterday, and it requires a response, I believe. It's the same person. This person has commented before and just said somebody's been watching too much TikTok. And then yesterday, the response was somebody's been watching too much TikTok, and also everybody has moods, which is true. Everybody does have moods. I have moods. And this is mainly Brie, but I am more of a blended JJ because we are starting to integrate more. I've been going through this for 3 years. I didn't start posting things until just maybe, 5 months ago, in order to show the healing. I have some videos from back 3 years ago, where you will see a person that was much more in distress than I am now. Number one, though, I don't watch TikTok. I didn't even know that there was a trend until after I started having intrusive thoughts really bad 3 years ago. Worse than normal, okay? Because I know that we all have intrusive thoughts. We all have this call from the void that might tell us to do something inappropriate. Or when we get intoxicated, we might act inappropriately. So we all have those things that occur. That is not a disorder necessarily. That is what everybody has. But 3 years ago, my intrusive thoughts became really, really, really strong. And I'm a pretty strong individual. And I have suffered from depression since my last year of college. So I have had suicidal intrusive thoughts before, and especially after I went to China in 2009 and caught typhus and Legionellas and 2 of the Coxsackie viruses. And didn't know, the doctors didn't know what I had for about a month and a half. And I was trying to teach. I was a middle school teacher at the time, and I was trying to teach and totally falling apart because I was dying. Finally got sent to an infectious disease doctor who tested me for everything under the sun and found out that I had all of these. Stopped me from dying, but I never got better. I still have this pain that I will have all of my life. And then quickly gained about 100 pounds. Changed my life, totally changed me. There were moods of myself that went into hibernation, or they call it dormancy in the dissociative disorder world, that didn't wake up very often. I was still one consciousness then, though. And it's hard looking back over your life and trying to figure out, who you are and how you become who you are. Now, is the TikTok trend with dissociative disorders, is that just for money for some people? Probably. Just for attention from some people? Probably. Which is an a mental disorder all itself. You know, anytime that you've got attention seeking, it's there's something going on inside of a person's head. And maybe that is part of what's going on with me, but I don't think so, because I did not start posting immediately. In fact, I was super in distress, and my intrusive thoughts were actually planning to harm myself or to harm another person. And I do think that that's why we unfused. And we were tenuously fused anyway, because like I said, I started seeing a psychiatrist in 1995, my last year of college, or 1996. I think it was actually in the winter of 95. But I remember when I was 9 years old and went through a bully period at school really bad, that my mother says my hair was falling out, and I remember that I wanted to die. But again, it's like I'm seeing it through somebody else's eyes, because as Bree, I would never do that. I would not hurt myself, because I'm a fighter. I'm probably gonna hurt whoever it is that's causing me to feel that way. So that's why I think that I've always had this. It's just I wasn't aware. And I do think that I was tenuously fused all of those years, up until 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, my aunt passed away, and I had to move in with my father part-time to help him with his business and his historic house, which is where I am right now, and also his farm, and then also himself, because he doesn't have anybody else. Once his sister died, I'm all he's got. And my sons, and now my oldest sons and daughter-in-law, and they have their own lives. My brother and sister do not see him. My brother's not seen him in 35 years, and my sister's not seen him in 28 years. And he was a neglectful father when we were children. Our mom did her best, but she had her own struggles, including not much support. And so, you know, I don't want to play the blame game anymore. 3 years ago, it was very, very difficult to feel complete as the complete JJ and not want to kill myself and have it all be over, and be at peace. So there were a lot of intrusive thoughts, and I realized that they were not mine. They were not my thoughts. So I started categorizing. I'm a computer programmer, or I was at the time. I'm unemployed right now. And not because of my mental disorder, or mental disorders, because I'm diagnosed with multiple things, from 1995, depression, and then anxiety during the teacher years was added to that. I've been on almost every medication that you can think of. And then after China, I was diagnosed with chronic PTSD, because I finally was a little bit honest about the childhood trauma. You know, some memories were coming back to me as far as my experiences with my father and my mother and their extended families. And then also the cruelties that we do to each other, that men and women do to each other. The coming from having a neglectful father, I have daddy issues, and I've made a lot of bad choices as far as my choice of mate. And I've been abusive, and so have they. And our society does not help it at all. Especially now when you've got lots of people in the news that you hear about that have done these horrible things to people, some of the same things that happened to me. And they're not being punished. So there are moods within me that are a little raw right now. But that's not what caused this. What caused this was moving in with my dad. And my parents have always had a bit of a tug of war with me, but it intensified. So I am not a TikTok person. I didn't even know that there was a trend until, maybe I heard about it. I don't know. But I've known about DID, which was called multiple personality disorder, from when I read the book Sybil in high school. And I didn't think that I had that, because at the time Jessie was in the front. She's really personable, and she's really, friendly to people, and she held us all together. And then if we were wronged, I would jump out, and I would say that we probably needed to be in therapy, but at the time, it was the late 80s, that's not what you did. You didn't, like, my mother, even though she had been abused as a child, she never attended therapy for it. She just dealt with it. That's what people did. And they swept it under the rugs, and then it continued in their children. Generational trauma is a thing. You can't just sweep that stuff under the rugs and expect your children to be okay when you're still doing your manipulation, or you're giving silent treatment, or So this did not start when I started posting here on YouTube. Did I first start posting here because I was hoping to make a career of it? Possibly. But I've had lots of people to reach out to me wanting to help me with the channel, and I'm not doing that because I've decided for my system this is more about us healing and looking back over things. And And the person who, I'll just go ahead and tell you, it's a person with the handle at Vegan Dolls. And so check that person out. Give them some props because it really made me think about things. You know, and I do have a lot of doubts, like, is this really real? Am I actually 4 different identity states? Or is it all the same? Is it all the same woman? And I don't think it is, because I'll tell you, if you, I got very obsessed with this guy that I was talking to in this bar recently, and he would tell you that I was different each time that he would talk to me, and I was very juvenile sometimes, and then other times very grown up, and I would sometimes want to be and I do that with guys. Like, it's almost like I want to win them. And then once I have them, I kind of take over. And then I want control. I don't know. You know? So when I'm in Harper mode, or when I am Harper, I'm very young acting and juvenile and hedonistic, and I just want to be happy and loved, and I love everybody. And then when I'm in this mode, as Bree, I hate everyone, and if an apocalypse happened, that'd be great, because then I'd get to be alone, and not have to deal with people telling me that I'm faking stuff. And then all that Jessie wants is to nurture, specifically children. She wants, especially our boys, who are not children anymore, they're adults. And so therefore she'd want to nurture other children and be a teacher again, but we're not well enough to be a teacher. And then Jude, I think she's always been wishing to be at peace and not have to deal with all this human stuff, like this sweat that's dripping down my back because it's really hot in this house, especially with the sun shining on me. And I'm nervous, so therefore I'm sweating like crazy. And spring is hard. There's a lot of pain in spring. I am hurting pretty damn bad. Not only from the post-infectious fibromyalgia, but also from the obesity, and the degenerative disc disease, and sciatica, and being 53 years old. So, yes, all people do have moods, just like Vegan Doll says. And just like one of my dates said, I started telling him, and he got really uncomfortable. And this was back whenever it first started. I shared it with everybody, and I've learned that you don't need to do that. I mainly share on YouTube now. I don't talk about the other sides of myself, the other parts of myself with anybody anymore in real life. You know, occasionally with my mother, because I feel like she should help me heal, you know? But my dad doesn't know. And even though my siblings and my sons know, I don't talk about it with them, especially not my sister, because it scares her. And I've got friends that know, but I don't talk about it with them anymore because maybe it was attention seeking. And maybe I still am. Maybe that's what this YouTube channel is about. But I think it's more that people are starting to understand themselves, and they're starting to understand their minds, and maybe the TikTok trend has showed younger people that they feel that way too. And maybe it is attention seeking for some of them, but for others, maybe it is an actual disorder. I don't know. Just got a freaking call. So I don't know. This is going to be a long post, it seems like, because I'm rambling. I don't mind people challenging me. Like, I don't mind somebody saying, you know, somebody's been watching too much TikTok. Maybe when I first got the disorder, or not got the disorder, because they say that it starts in childhood. I don't know. I just know that 3 years ago, I was having major intrusive thoughts and was starting to plan my death. And even though I have been to that point in the past before, like especially right after China, this time it was different. It was more serious. And also there was that added, that added anger and rage from me that was not directed towards myself. And I think that was possibly what tipped me over the edge. I don't know. So 3 years ago, whenever I first started categorizing all the intrusive thoughts, and I started giving names to the different characters that I thought were saying the things, there were lots. Like, I thought that maybe I was like 40 different characters, 40 different parts. But a few of them started talking back to me, started communicating back, and saying that actually many of those thoughts were theirs. And I do think that everybody's different. Now, there are some people with DID that don't accept that they have DID, and they have major amnesia blocks, which that was something that Vegan Doll said, was that if you have this, you would not know that you had this. You would not be aware of your switches. That's, in certain cases, that is true. They have complete amnesia blocks and complete blackouts and complete switches. Some people, though, have what is called other specified dissociative disorder, where they have no amnesia blocks. and they are aware of their switches, and they may not even have distinct identity states. I've kind of gone back and forth as to which one I have. I do have a lot of amnesia from childhood. I do have a lot of missing memories, I think, which I know all people do. You know, you can't remember everything that happens to you, but I'm like years. This is something else that she asked, I think it's a she, is that, you know, have you been diagnosed, or did you just decide this for yourself? I did decide at first that this is what I had, and I brought it to my psychiatrist at the time, and she blew me off for, I think it was about 4 months that she blew me off. And she did put it in my file. I do have my file, but I was wanting to get assistance with it. I was needing somebody who knew about it, and she acted like, you know, that I couldn't have it. And maybe I don't. But I eventually switched to another facility where I saw a few different psychiatrists, and depending on the day, it was either me that went in, or usually it's Jude. Jude is the crier, and she's the one that usually meets with the psychiatrist, because she's the one with the most distress and the most problems. And she's the one that I think that OCD stems from. She's also the one that I believe was our first, you know. I think that she's the original me. And I think she's autistic. There are autistic tendencies, or OCD tendencies. My younger son is diagnosed with autism. He's been diagnosed since he was, he was diagnosed with learning disabilities and ADHD when he was really little, but then he did get diagnosed with autism when he was a little bit older. And my brother definitely has some autistic tendencies, and I think that I had some too, but girls present differently with autism. We tend to mask, and that could be part of it also. That could be part of what's going on, is, I don't know, but she is probably where we need the most healing. And there are many days when she takes the front that she just does not want to be here. She wants to be back with God, and I can kind of feel her distress coming in a little bit right now. And of course, people are going to say, you wouldn't know, but I do know. After 3 years of extensive writing, you know, I'm not an idiot. And I do think that we will eventually blend back together, fuse back together, and be a successful, wonderful human being, and be able to run the farm and run the business and run our lives, or my life. But we're not quite there yet. And I'm not gonna shove the can of worms back in the can at this point, when I'm so close to feeling better, to feeling complete, and not having so many irrationalities. I usually can pick up on them a lot quicker now, and not go off on one of my parents. And they're getting better also about not mistreating me. I mean, there's 78, so it's really hard to change, but if they want me in their lives, they've got to change, because I'm not gonna stay if they don't. And I've got to be more patient with them and understanding and loving. We've got to work together, all work together. So, it's really easy, I think, to see the post where I do have it more together and say, well, she's faking. And I don't know that I've ever recorded an actual panic attack. I've recorded the aftermaths of the panic attacks. But when a panic attack happens, there's rapid switching and there is amnesia blocks, and I don't always know who I am or why I feel the way that I feel. There's a lot of irrationalities and irrational thoughts, and I think the important thing with all differences is to be patient and understanding, and not go quickly to judgment. And realize that we're all just doing our best, you know? We're all just doing our best. Jude is coming in and wants me to point out that if you are a religious person who, if you are Christian and believe in the Holy Trinity, where you've got God and then you've got Jesus and you've got the Holy Spirit, that are three parts of the whole. And we are made in God's image. How is it hard to believe that we have different parts as well? You know? So, as far as people who say we all have moods, yes, we all have moods. And according to this internal family system theory that started in the 1980s, that says that we all have this calm, confident part that we present to the world, and then beneath we have these irrational parts that make us do silly stuff. Yes, and that's how I was for most of my life. When you have a disorder, a dissociative disorder, there's not the one consciousness. You have multiple consciousnesses that can blend together, that can separate out together, that can go dormant, and they each have their irrationalities. Is it all in my head? Yeah, it's all in your head too. That's the thing about it. Our brains are amazing things. And sometimes they need healing. And right now, that's what I'm trying to do. So, anyway, this has gone on way, way, way long, and probably nobody's gonna watch the whole thing except for me. And that's okay. Now I gotta go take some taxes in because I'm late on them. So, okay, and then I'm gonna go back into December and start posting some videos from there, unless I get some comments that, distress me a bit. It didn't really distress me. I mean, I'm trying to be lighter and not so angry, because that doesn't solve anything. And I may not change your mind, and that's okay too. Have a great day, everybody, including vegan dolls. Bye.